Competitive hacked Pokemon is a format where you can use hacked Pokemon. That means Pokemon with any moves, any abilities, and maxed out EVs. The point of this format is for fun, where you can create powerful combinations that you ordinarily couldn't. But even in a hacked Pokemon context, some things are overpowered and not very fun as a result. The prototypical example of that is No Guard plus Sheer Cold. That strategy is so much better than other strategies that it becomes one of the few worth using. That's why there exists a pure hackmons with no bans at all, and a balanced hackmons where people ban things to balance the format. This week, balanced hackmons ban the move Substitute. I don't play a lot of hackmons, so it was very interesting to hear. Honestly, it sounds a little weird. How could Substitute be ban-worthy? Hacked Pokemon is where you use all sorts of goofy strategies. That's the point of the format. So out of all the potentially broken moves and combinations, why was Substitute banned? It has to do with the combination of Substitute and Good as Gold, Golden Go's ability. The best example of this is Substitute, Victory Dance, Leech Seed Zamazenta. The bulky sweeper genre of hacked Pokemon has been around for a while. You get a Pokemon that is both a wall and potentially a sweeper too. A good example is Poison Heal, Toxic Orb, Quiver Dance Xerneas in older generations going for a win. It was very relevant in Generation 7 and was the best Pokemon in parts of Generation 8. This genre of sweeper is terrifying because it can be tough to take down a Pokemon that's already so tanky, but can also boost its stats with the best boosting moves in the game. No matter the generation, even hacked Pokemon are going to struggle versus a Zamazenta or a Kyogre or a Xerneas using moves like Quiver Dance or Victory Dance. In fact, Quiver Dance is already banned in Generation 9. But bulky sweepers have also always had ways to fight against it. There are several ways to stop a bulky sweeper, and they were part of the balanced hackmons ecosystem. Good as Gold beats a lot of those techniques. Good as Gold makes you immune to status moves. First, that means you can't be hit by Roar or Whirlwind, the best ways to beat bulky setup. It also means you can't be taunted, you can't be hit by Perish Song, and you can't be hit by Heart Swap. Parting Shot spam is a common way to slow down setup sweepers while not sacrificing other utility. Parting Shot is a good move overall with plenty of pivot applications, and versus bulky sweepers, you can keep using Parting Shot to neutralize it. That doesn't work versus Good as Gold. New to Generation 9, Topsy-Turvy and Spectral Thief don't work anymore, so these are options that are gone, and overall that makes it tougher to beat a bulky setup sweeper Pokemon. Your traditional ways of beating bulky sweepers don't work, so now you have to look at other options. That is where Substitute comes in. It blocks the other tactics to beat a bulky setup. For one, you can't use Salt Cure or other weak attacking moves to beat a bulky sweeper anymore. You can't Knock Off or Nuzzle or Salt Cure or Mortal Spin because they're typically not strong enough to break a Substitute. The Victory Dance Zamazenta is the best example mentioned earlier. Offensive Pokemon struggle to beat Victory Dance because of the speed boosts, and defensive Pokemon struggle to break the Substitute. Then they get stalled out by Leech Seed. The recovery nerf of Generation 9 also plays a big role. In Gen 9, most recovery moves only have 8 PP, which means defensive Pokemon can't stall out offensive threats anymore. In the past, maybe a bulky sweeper would simply not be able to break a recover Pokemon. A very defensive Pokemon might have more recover PP than you have attacking PP. That's not true anymore. It's why Haze looks good on paper but doesn't always work in practice. Your Haze Pokemon actually often loses the PP war to a Leech Seed Zamazenta. You simply take too much damage and you have to recover too often. A Pokemon like Zamazenta can often defeat a Haze Pokemon before it in return runs out of PP. It's the same situation with Unaware. You would need 2 of these Pokemon to beat a Zamazenta. Imposter, Ditto's ability to transform, is often used on Pokemon like Chansey or Blissey because the ability copies everything except the HP stat. It's traditionally been a good way to stop setup because you copy the setup sweeper. That doesn't work versus Substitute. Honestly, even without Substitute, it struggles because Imposter only copies with 5 PP, so it's not a good solution either way. Ironically, one of the better ways to beat Substitute plus Good as Gold was to use your own Substitute plus Good as Gold Pokemon and turn the game into a very miserable 70-turn PP stall. Mold Breaker Whirlwind wasn't too common as Mold Breaker itself is not too common. In old generations of Hackmons, maybe Mold Breaker was fine, but in later generations like Generation 9, So many good abilities have been accumulated that Moldbreaker suffers from opportunity cost. Moldbreaker is a nice ability to have, but there are so many other abilities that are simply better, and you only use Moldbreaker if there's a specific thing you need it for. Torch Song is actually a way of getting past Substitute, but there's generally issues with its power and you need to be able to boost faster than Victory Dance and Ironhead. There's no point in Torch Songing if you don't boost fast enough and die to a regular old Victory Dance plus attack combination. You basically had to be a Fire-type Torch Song to match up versus a Zamazenta example, and there aren't many good Fire-type Pokemon in balanced hackmons. Terra Fire Eternatus was the main Torch Song Pokemon you'd see, and you'd also occasionally see Fur Coat Arceus Fire to counter Zamazenta. Zamazenta was the main Pokemon for the strategy, but other bulky sweepers can also operate with the same idea. Palafin Hero and Arceus Steel are other examples of Pokemon that can run that idea. Basically, the strategy meant that only direct damage could break this genre of Pokemon, which is somewhat difficult even in balanced hackmons. People eventually came to the conclusion that the combination of Substitute plus Good as Gold was banworthy. All the different changes compared to previous generations added on to Good as Gold made the strategy really good. Maybe if Recover PP wasn't nerfed, or Spectral Thief was still in the game, it wouldn't have been considered ban-worthy, but all the small things combined plus Good as Gold made it tough to play against. The only remaining question was how to ban it. Should you ban Substitute or the ability? If Good as Gold were to be banned, you could still use Soundproof as an inferior but still effective version of the Good as Gold strategy. You would be able to block Roar, Parting Shot, and Torch Song, but you would lose your other immunities. For the most part, the strategy would still remain intact even with Soundproof. It was decided that banning Substitute would be a better way to handle the combination because it definitively stops the strategy. Banning Good as Gold would only nerf it. That decision was controversial, but it is ultimately what was voted on. And that is why the hacked Pokemon community decided to ban Substitute.